first thing you learn about tending bar in the void is that everyone's got a story, and most of them are lies. The second thing is that lies pay better than truth, especially when they're wrapped in credits and slid across scarred plasteel with a knowing wink. My name's Cassie Thorne, and I've been pouring drinks and trading secrets aboard Perdition's gate for the better part of 7 years. Gate's what we call a floater, one of those ramshackle frontier towns that drifts between the outer colonies, never quite belonging to any one world, never quite welcome anywhere else. She's a patchwork beauty of salvaged hull plates and jury-rigged atmospheric processors, spinning lazy through the black like a drunk dancer who's forgotten the steps but keeps moving anyway. The Rusty Nebula sits dead center of Gate's main hub, and if you squint through the perpetual haze of recycled air and cheap tobacco, you might mistake it for any saloon that ever graced a dusty frontier town. Same scarred bar, same mismatched chairs, same mirror behind the bottles that's seen too much and reflects too little. Only difference is the view through the porthole windows. Endless, star-drunk darkness instead of desert sand. Tonight, like most nights, the nebula hummed with the particular energy of people trying real hard to forget where they came from. Prospectors nursing synthetic whiskey and dreams of striking it rich in the asteroid fields. Cargo runners comparing scars and swap stories about close calls with patrol ships. The usual collection of drifters, dealers, and the desperately lost that wash up on floaters like debris after a solar storm. I was wiping down glasses and half listening to old Jeremiah spin another tall tale about his mining days when she walked in. She moved like smoke given form, all flow in coat and measured steps. The kind of person who'd learned long ago that drawing attention was the fastest way to a shallow grave. Her hair was the color of burnished copper, pulled back severe enough to cut glass, and her eyes swept the room with the methodical precision of someone cataloging exits and potential threats. What caught my attention wasn't her caution. Hell, paranoia's practically a survival trait out here. It was the way she carried herself, like she was used to being the most dangerous thing in any given room, and found the responsibility tiresome. She slid onto a stool at the far end of the bar, in the shadows where the overhead lights couldn't quite reach. When she spoke, her voice carried the kind of accent that suggested expensive education and expensive mistakes. Whiskey. The real kind, if you've got it. I poured 2 fingers of genuine earth bourbon, the good stuff I kept hidden behind the synthetic swill, and set it down without comment. In my line of work, you learn to read people fast. This woman wasn't here for conversation or company. She was here for business. She sipped the whiskey like she was tasting memories, then reached into her coat. What she pulled out made my blood turn to ice water in my veins. It was a piece of bone, maybe 6 inches long, carved with intricate patterns that seemed to shift and writhe in the dim light. The surface was the color of deep space, black shot through with veins of silver that pulsed with their own inner fire. Even from 3 feet away, I could feel the weight of it, the wrongness that made the hair on my arms stand up and my teeth ache. Dragonbone. Genuine, honest to void dragonbone. I need passage to the Kepler drift, she said, sliding the bone across the bar like it was nothing more than a credit chip. This should cover it. I stared at the bone, my mouth gone dry as vacuum. In 7 years of running black market deals through the nebula's back rooms, I'd seen plenty of rare cargo, weapons that could level city blocks, data cores worth more than small planets, even a few pieces of old Earth tech that probably shouldn't exist. But Dragonbone, that was the stuff of legends and fever dreams. Dragons were a myth, a story spacers told to explain the unexplainable. Ships that vanished without a trace in the deep black. Entire colonies that went silent overnight, leaving behind nothing but empty buildings and the lingering scent of ozone. Most folks figured it was just the void playing tricks, or raiders smart enough to cover their tracks. But here was proof, sitting on my bar like a loaded gun. "Where'd you get this?" I asked, keeping my voice steady through sheer force of will. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Does it matter? It's real, it's valuable, and it's yours if you can get me where I need to go." Before I could answer, the saloon doors hissed open and 3 figures walked in. I recognized them immediately. Voss cartel muscle, the kind of hired guns who settled disputes with plasma and asked questions of the corpses. They moved with the casual arrogance of apex predators, scanning the room like they owned it. The woman's hand drifted toward her coat, but I caught her wrist. "Easy," I murmured. "This is neutral ground. Nobody draws iron in the nebula unless they want to explain themselves to the whole station." The lead gunman, a scarred brute named Korvac, swaggered up to the bar. His cybernetic eye whirred as it focused on me, then shifted to the woman. "Heard there was something interesting changing hands tonight," he said, his voice like gravel in a cement mixer. "Voss cartel's got a standing offer for exotic materials, very generous terms." The woman's grip tightened on her whiskey glass. "I'm not selling." Korvac's laugh was about as pleasant as a hull breach. "See, that's where you're wrong, sweetheart. Everything's for sale out here. Just a matter of price." I cleared my throat, drawing his attention. "Like I told your boss last time he sent muscle to my establishment, the nebula operates on a simple principle. You respect my customers. I respect your continued breathing." Korvac's good eye narrowed. "That a threat, barkeep?" "It's a fact." I kept my tone conversational, but my hand was already moving toward the sawed-off plasma rifle mounted under the bar. "This lady's drinking my whiskey, which makes her my guest. You got business with her, you conduct it elsewhere." For a moment, the saloon went quiet, except for the distant hum of the station's life support. Then Korvac smiled, showing teeth that had been replaced with chrome. "We'll be seeing you around," he said to the woman. Then to me, "Both of you." They left as quickly as they'd come, but their message was clear. Word was already spreading about the Dragonbone, and every criminal organization in 3 sectors would be sniffing around before long. The woman finished her whiskey and stood. "Seems I've caused you some trouble." "Trouble's my business," I said. "Name's Cassie Thorne. I run a few side operations out of the back room. Transportation, information, items of questionable legality. If you really want passage to Kepler Drift, I can arrange it, but that bone's going to paint a target on both our backs." She considered this, then extended a gloved hand. "Elena Voss." The name hit me like a meteor strike. Voss. As in the Voss cartel, the same organization whose muscle had just walked out my door. "Well," I said, shaking her hand despite every instinct screaming at me to run. "That explains a few things." Elena's smile was sharp as a vibroblade. "I'm what you might call the black sheep of the family. My dear brother Marcus has been trying to kill me for the better part of 3 years now. And the Dragonbone? Let's just say I liberated it from the family vault before making my exit. It's my insurance policy, and now, apparently, my ticket to freedom. I poured myself a drink, figuring I was going to need it. Kepler Drift's a hard place to reach. It's in the middle of a nebula that plays hell with navigation systems, and the only safe passage is controlled by the Syndicate. They don't much care for the Voss cartel, which is exactly why I need to get there. Elena leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. There's someone in the drift who can help me disappear permanently. Someone who knows how to make the cartel forget I ever existed. Before I could respond, the lights flickered, and the station's emergency klaxons began to wail. Through the porthole windows, I could see the running lights of ships moving into position around Perdition's gate. Big ships, the kind that carried enough firepower to turn a floater into scrap metal and regret. Voss cartel fleet, Elena said, her face going pale. Marcus doesn't waste time. I was already moving, hitting the hidden switches that would lock down the nebula's back rooms and activate the signal scramblers I'd installed for just such occasions. We've got maybe 10 minutes before they board. There's a maintenance shaft that leads to the docking bays. No. Elena's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Running won't solve this. They'll just follow us to the next port, the next station. It ends here. Lady, I admire your grit, but we're talking about a full cartel battle group, even if we had an army. We don't need an army. She held up the Dragonbone, and I swear the silver veins pulsed brighter. We have this. That's when I heard it. A sound like nothing I'd ever experienced before. It started as a vibration in the deck plates, so low it was more felt than heard. Then it grew, rising through the frequencies until it became a roar that seemed to come from the void itself. The station shuddered, and through the windows I could see something impossible. A shape moving through the darkness between the cartel ships. Something vast and serpentine that defied every law of physics I'd ever learned. It was beautiful and terrible, like watching a nightmare learn to dance. Sweet mother of stars, I whispered. That's a dragon, Elena finished. They're not myths, Cassie. They're older than human civilization, older than the colonies, maybe older than Earth itself. They sleep in the deep black between the stars, and they only wake when something calls to them. The Dragonbone in her hand was glowing now, bright enough to cast shadows across the saloon. This isn't just a piece of bone. It's a beacon, a way to communicate with them. My family's been hoarding dragon artifacts for generations, using them to intimidate rivals and maintain power. They never understood what they really had. Outside, the cartel ships were scattering like startled fish as the dragon moved among them. It was impossible to judge its true size. Perspective meant nothing in the void, but it dwarfed the largest dreadnought. Its hide seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it difficult to focus on directly. It's magnificent, Elena breathed, and I realized she was crying. One of the cartel ships opened fire, plasma cannons lighting up the darkness. The beams struck the dragon's flank and simply disappeared, absorbed into that impossible hide without leaving so much as a scorch mark. The creature turned toward the offending vessel with the slow, inexorable grace of a force of nature. What happened next wasn't violence in any conventional sense. The dragon simply breathed, and the ship ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized. It just wasn't there anymore, as if the universe had decided it had never been built in the first place. The remaining cartel vessels didn't wait around to test their luck. They broke formation and scattered, jumping to hyperspace with the desperate haste of prey escaping a predator. The dragon hung in space for a moment longer, its ancient eyes seeming to peer directly into the nebula. Then it turned and glided away into the star-drunk darkness, leaving nothing behind but the fading echo of its presence. Elena set the Dragonbone on the bar, and I noticed her hands were shaking. "They're gone," she said. "Marcus, the cartel, all of it. They won't risk coming after me now, not when they know what I can call down on them." "That was incredible," I managed. "Terrifying, but incredible. How did you know it would work?" "I didn't." Elena's laugh was shaky, but genuine. "I've been carrying this thing for 3 years, studying it, trying to understand what it really was. Tonight was the first time I actually tried to use it." I poured us both another drink, my hands steadier than they had any right to be. "So what now? You still need passage to Kepler Drift?" She shook her head. "No, I don't think so. The person I was going to see there, they specialized in helping people disappear, but I don't need to disappear anymore." She picked up the Dragonbone, and for a moment the silver veins pulsed in response to her touch. "I think it's time I stopped running." "What will you do?" Elena smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. "There are others like me out there. People fleeing the cartels, the syndicates, all the various flavors of organized cruelty that infest the outer colonies. Maybe it's time someone stood up for them." She finished her whiskey and stood, dropping a credit chip on the bar that was worth more than the Nebula's monthly take. "For the drinks and the sanctuary. If you ever need a favor, Cassie Thorne, you know how to find me." I watched her walk toward the door, then called out, "Elena, what you did tonight, calling that thing, doesn't that make you just as dangerous as the people you're running from?" She paused, her hand on the door controls. "Maybe, but there's a difference between power used to control and power used to protect. I guess we'll see which one I choose." After she left, I stood alone in the nebula, staring out at the stars. The dragon was long gone, but I could still feel the echo of its presence, like the memory of thunder after a storm has passed. I'd seen something tonight that changed everything I thought I knew about the universe. Dragons were real, ancient and powerful beyond imagination, sleeping in the void between worlds. And somewhere out there, Elena Voss was walking free, carrying the means to wake them. The thought should have terrified me. Instead, as I cleaned glasses and prepared to close up for the night, I found myself smiling. The frontier had always been a place where legends were born, where ordinary people did extraordinary things when pushed to the edge. Tonight, I'd watched a legend take flight. Outside the porthole windows, the stars wheeled in their ancient dance, and somewhere in that vast darkness, dragons dreamed of fire and freedom. The black market would go on. The nebula would keep serving drinks to drifters and dreamers, and Perdition's gate would continue its endless journey through the void. But something had changed tonight. Something fundamental and irreversible. The balance of power in the outer colonies had shifted, and Elena Voss, former cartel princess turned dragon caller, was at the center of it all. I raised my glass to the stars and whispered a toast to legends, both old and new. Then I locked up the Nebula and headed for my quarters, already planning how to upgrade the bar's security systems. After all, you never knew when a dragon might come calling.